Everything about me. So we can really go through. I'm delighted to be here. I am. And I look at that house there. It used to be a Baker Chapel. Long years ago, that very same one. And I've got wheels turning in my head that says, wow, if I could get this congregation over to Baker one time, and then bring Baker over here one time, oh, as the young people said, that would be the bomb. Where to start? Where to start? Where to start? I wanted to tell you about this. I had it because I got a cold, and I didn't want to give you the cold, not that virus stuff. And if you look at it, it's my family. My grandparents had 19 children. My mother was one of those. Grandfather was a short fella on a stallion, his little legs stuck up like that. But he was a powerhouse in his community. He was the Reverend Z. Zachariah Brothers. And everybody in the community went to Reverend Brothers when they had a problem. He was usually solving. I was full grown when it occurred to me. He'd bring somebody to my grandmother and say, Matsy, she was Mattie, my mom was Mattie. Give him something to eat. Buy some clothes for him. Find him something to do. Never turned anybody down, and I wondered why my grandmother had to look after somebody else when she already had 19 children. My mom married and moved to Marshall, Texas. He'd send somebody up there to her and tell her to look after them until they could get on their feet. So it's in our DNA. We simply have to help wherever we can and whenever we can. We have to share. I don't know whether you know that I lived right there at 926 East Terrell. And the reason being, my parents had moved from Marshall to Fort Worth when I was about 9. And they worked extremely hard and bought a house right down here, Annie Street. And would you believe we moved in 3 days before the 19th of June, and my mom had it fixed up so nice. But on the 19th of June, people started gathering across the street. The paper says it was 500 of them. And that the police were there, but the police couldn't control the mob. My dad came from work at the TNP station, and he had a gun. Police told him if he busted a cap, they'd let the mob have us. Our parents sent us to friends on Terrell, and they left under cover of darkness. Those people tore that place asunder. They did despicable things. But our parents never, ever discussed it with us. They worked like Trojans and bought the house on Terrell. Took a while. Now, I'm finishing I Am Terrell, and y'all know it was the only high school in Tarrant County for black children. I finished at 16 and my mom was so proud of me. She was sending me back to Marshall to Wiley College. But I got married. Oh, she was so disappointed. She wouldn't even go to Baker Chapel to the It took me 4 years and 4 babies to realize I was going to have to raise that husband too. So I cut my losses. I went home to my mother with 4 babies and had nerve enough to say, I'm ready to go to college now. And she says, I've got no money to send you to nobody's college. And then she said, I'll keep your children. Boy, did I work. I don't know how many jobs to get the money to go to Wiley that far. I spent it. I bought the children a television so she wouldn't have to run all over the community looking for it. And I went to Wiley without a dime. They put me to work in the college bookstore. I didn't give up the job I had in Fort Worth because I didn't know what was going to happen. My mom kept that job during the week. I'd come up on weekends. She'd collect the check. The work got done. Nobody paid any attention. We all looked alike. And so, I got through at Wiley in 3.5 years. I couldn't stay 4 years. I had children. When I came to Fort Worth, I got a job teaching. I made $2,000 a year. And I couldn't feed 4 children on $2,000. So I got another job. If I went to work at 8 and I was off at 3, there was a car waiting for me, and I clocked in at Convair at 4 and off at Trail, I'd still be working like that, but they laid people off up there. I want you to know that those 4 children went to North Texas State with me. 3 of them were freshmen, and the youngest was in a laboratory school. We had nerve enough to have riders. Don Carr would go sometimes, and sometimes it wouldn't. But I taught 3rd grade so long that I was beginning to act like those 8-year-olds, so they gave me another position. I became the visiting teacher. You know, it was social work. You had to be responsible for seeing why the children weren't in school and buying some shoes and some clothes and turning the lights on and finding a place for the kid to live sometimes. One of those times, I picked up a mother who was expecting and took her to pay maybe the water bill or something downtown. And at that time, if there was police cars running or if there was a fire truck, the light stopped. Everybody in town had to stop until that cleared up. Well, I decided I was going to take that lady to the housing authority so she could get a better place to live. And I kept moving. I didn't stop. The police stopped me, and he was mad as all get out. And I said, you see that lady's in labor? Don't you dare stop. He helped me get to the hospital with the lady. I took that lady home, and I was so scared I never went back to see her. want you to know, and I want young people to know, that if you have a dream and you have something that urges you, don't let it go. It might take a while, because it took us some 40 years to get a Juneteenth national holiday. I don't know how many of you remember Miss Waller, tall, straight, in her 90s, didn't wear glasses. She was my mentor. And we had a little Juneteenth building on Rosedale. Well, we had this call about 1020 Humboldt, two-story house, you know it, it's in this neighborhood. And the man was going to sell it. In fact, my church, Baker Chapel, had wanted to buy it, and he wanted $20,000 in that day and time. So I went with Miss Roller to talk with him about the house, and she asked him if he would sell it to us, and he said no, because he was going to pay somebody something like $3,000 to demolish it. And we sat there, and he finally said to Miss Robert, "You got $3,000. And she borrowed $3,000 from Mr. Robert. And that's how we got the Tarrant County Black Historical and Genealogical Society. Now, one of its programs was Juneteenth. The paper says we had 30,000 people in Little Sycamore Park, 10,000 people a day for 3 days. Did we have fun? Now, there's more to Juneteenth than that. We took exhibits to the park so people could see them. They didn't pay them that much attention. And you know, when it was time to go, the park closed at 10, they just pulled a switch and we all knew to go home. Well, this time, when they pulled the switch, I got on a flatbed truck and put it back. We partied till dawn. I want you to know that Juneteenth has always been a part of Texas, and the reason is that after the war, this General Gordon Granger is making his way to Galveston because there were 250,000 slaves in Galveston. The plantation owners carried them there thinking that when the war was over, they'd go back and get them. But it didn't happen. And so Granger, with several thousand colored troops, stopped in Galveston. And he read this proclamation while they spread out telling people that the enslaved were free. He nailed that general order, that's what it was, to the door of Reedy Chapel, African Methodist Episcopal Church. And when they came in from their labors and somebody read that to them, we started celebrating, and we've been celebrating ever since. I don't want you to think Juneteenth is just a festival. I don't want you to think it's a black thing. I don't want you to think it's a Texas thing. It's a freedom thing. And it's freedom for everybody.
Amen.
Not just a few of us. Freedom for all of us. We ain't free yet. There's so many things that we need to work on. The homelessness, the joblessness, health care some of us can get and others can't. climate change that we are responsible for, and I tell you, if we don't do something about climate change, the weather, it's our responsibility. We are the cause of it. If we don't do something about it, we're all going to hell in a handbasket. So I'm saying to you, make yourself a committee of one. Don't wait for the city and the county, the state, and the government to do something. Make yourself a committee of one and change somebody's mind. You know people who aren't on the same page you on, change their mind. If people can be taught to hate, they can be taught to love. And it's up to you to do something about it. We don't have guns, but we've got some sharp minds. I've got one sitting back there now. He's Renee's son, one of the twins at Harvard. You know, he's getting through in 3 years. We're all going to his graduation this spring. Amen. I'm so proud. I don't know what to do. But you have got these children who are sharp as tacks. And we need to share what we know with them so that we can get out of the quagmire that we're in. There's still too much for us to do to consider ourselves free. None of us are free until we're all free, and we're not free yet. So, I brought a lot of stuff up here with me, and my daughter said, where are you going with that? Well, I needed to share this with you. I don't know what page, because on the corner of Rosedale and Evans, and it looks like the hind heels of hell down there. I've had a Juneteenth museum for years. The homeless just burned us out, bless their hearts, and I don't know where they're going to stay now. But they are our brothers, and we have to look after them as best we can. We are going to have a Juneteenth museum. Turn the pages for this. And we didn't just come up with this idea ourselves. The community was involved. They decided they didn't want no tall buildings down there. They wanted, and so the concept is shotgun houses. Maybe this is the idea that it was born of when we lived in shotgun houses. Maybe the youngsters don't know that that was 3 rooms straight back. You could take a shotgun and fire it through the front door, and you'd go out the back and you wouldn't hit a thing. So the concept of shotgun houses is where this is coming from. I didn't know it was this much stuff. And on that corner, we're going to have a museum. We're going to have a theater. I hope they name it the Dale and Opal Lee Theater. I'm looking forward to that. There's going to be an incubator for small businesses. There's going to be housing because we've acquired the block except for Mount Zion Church. Don't touch churches. But we are looking forward to this being the catalyst for doing so many things on the south side. All right. And you needed to know about it. And I'm proud to tell you about it. dance, but the kids sound twerking. You needed to know about it. You needed to know about it because it's your community. This is, that's about it. For years, Baker Funeral Home has offered a calendar, and it has had some notable people. I got some 2022s, and I got a few 2023s. But the young people ought to know. They don't have to wait till high school till they learn about these people. They need to know from elementary school. They need to know who these folk are. This was John Lewis. I met him. I really did. But ask Baker Funeral Home for a calendar. Ask me. I got some. I wrote a little book called Juneteenth for Children. And I think it's the Amazon, www.therealopallee.com or something like that. And find this book where I tell children about Juneteenth. And it has a story of when I went to the White House and they signed the bill to make it Juneteenth. Did I tell you my dream of having Baker Chapel come over here and you go with me? Okay. I said it twice. I'm going to work at it. I hope the rest of you will help, that we will get together as a community. And you'll see what we're doing down there. And I know what you do up here. Thank you for listening.